We're about to dive into a message that's almost 1,700 years old. But don't let that age fool you, okay? This isn't some dusty, irrelevant text. It is one of the most radical, hopeful, and honestly explosive things ever written. And its power is just as real today as it was way back in the 4th century.
So let me ask you this. Have you ever had that sinking feeling in your stomach that you're just too late, that you totally missed your chance? Maybe you missed out on an opportunity, a reward, or maybe you felt like you even missed your chance at forgiveness. Well, that exact feeling, that anxiety, that's what this ancient sermon tackles head on.
To really get the punch of this sermon, we have to go back in time. So picture this. You're in an early Christian church for the Easter Vigil. It's the middle of the night, you've just gone through weeks of serious fasting for Lent, and the air is just thick, Full of anticipation, sure, but also this kind of quiet, gnawing worry.
You're sitting there in this dimly lit room, and you are just exhausted. You've tried, you really have, but you can't shake this feeling that you didn't do enough. Maybe you slipped up on your fast. Maybe your mind wandered during prayers. You kind of look around at everyone else, and you just feel like a total imposter. And then the preacher gets up to speak, and what he says just shatters everybody's expectations.
He starts off by welcoming the people who'd been working hard all day, just like you'd expect. But then, almost immediately, he turns to the ones who showed up late, like 9 in the morning for a job that started at dawn. And he doesn't shame them. No, he commands them to join the party with gratitude.
And then, the invitation gets even more wild. The 9th hour? That's around 3 p.m. We're talking about the people who skipped almost the entire day. And still, the message is crystal clear. Don't even think twice. Just come on in.
And then you get the most unbelievable line of all, the 11th hour. This is literally the last possible second. This is the person who did basically nothing. And even for them, the message isn't just, okay, fine, you can come in. It's a command. Do not be afraid. Your lateness, it just doesn't matter.
Now, for the people hearing this for the first time, this image would have hit them like a ton of bricks. It comes from a famous story Jesus told, where a landowner pays the guys who showed up at the last minute the exact same wage as the ones who'd been sweating it out all day long. It's a story about a completely different kind of economy, one that just flips our whole idea of fairness on its head.
So, if the reward isn't about how long you worked or how hard you tried, what is it about? Well, the sermon doesn't give us a formula. Instead, it paints a picture with this powerful metaphor, a huge feast with an open invitation for everyone.
See, the preacher doesn't scold anybody for being late or lazy. He doesn't give some lecture about how you need to try harder next time. Nope. He throws a massive party and insists that every single person is on the guest list. That anxiety of I didn't do enough is totally drowned out by the joy of there's more than enough. And listen, this is no potluck. The language here is so intentional. The calf is a fatted one. That's a direct callback to the story of the prodigal son, right? Where the father throws the biggest party for his reckless, undeserving son who came crawling back home. It's a symbol of this lavish, over-the-top, unconditional celebration. This slide just nails the central idea, doesn't it? Our whole world, it runs on human logic. You work, you get paid. You get what you deserve. But this sermon is describing a totally different reality. It's not about deserving anything, it's about receiving a gift. The last are treated like the first, because grace isn't a wage, it's just a gift, pure and simple.
And just in case anyone in the room still wasn't getting it, the preacher lays out the guest list explicitly. And just look at these pairings, the rich and the poor eating together as equals. The person who fasted is sitting right next to the person who didn't. Even the disciplined and, the lazy are told to celebrate side by side. Every single barrier we put up, status, spiritual performance, effort, it all just gets completely demolished.
Okay, but this raises a massive question. What on earth is the reason for a party this crazy? Why is this feast even happening? And this is where the sermon pivots to the cosmic event that makes the whole thing possible.
You see, this whole feast isn't just a nice thought. It's anchored in a real event, the resurrection. Forgiveness is no longer just a concept we hope for. The sermon says it's an active, living power that has literally risen from the grave and defeated the ultimate consequence of all our failures, death itself.
The sermon then paints this absolutely incredible, dramatic picture of what went down. It describes Christ going down into Hades, the realm of the dead. But this isn't a friendly visit. It's a raid. It's a jailbreak. Hell, this great devourer, thinks it's just grabbing another victim, but it has made a huge, fatal miscalculation.
The tension just builds with this line. You can almost imagine hell as this living thing, a monster swallowing its prey. It takes a human body down into its depths.
And it gets the shock of its existence. The bait contained a hook. By trying to consume a human, it accidentally swallowed God. It was the ultimate cosmic bait and switch, and the consequences for hell are, well, catastrophic.
And so the preacher just roars out this triumphant taunt aimed directly at the now powerless forces of death and hell. This isn't really a question, is it? It's a declaration. It's a victory lap. Your power is gone. Your sting is gone. The war is over and you lost. Now, this epic cosmic victory isn't just a cool myth. For the person who wrote this sermon, and for the people listening, it fundamentally changed reality. For everyone. So the sermon wraps up with this cascade of triumphant proclamations that all flow from this one event. Because Christ is risen, the bad guys are thrown down. The angels are celebrating. The tomb is no longer a prison, it's an empty room. And the most beautiful result of all, life itself has been set free.
So let's be really clear what this means. This message is way bigger than just, hey, your sins are forgiven. It's saying that the entire system that gave sin its power in the first place, that fear of death, the finality of the grave, that whole system is shattered. Believers are motivated to move forward, not because they're perfect, but because the one thing they feared most has been utterly defeated.
And that kind of brings it all back to us, right now. We live in a world that is obsessed with performance, with deadlines, with proving our worth. So the question this 1,700-year-old sermon leaves us with is this. What would change in our lives, right now, if we really truly believed that grace isn't a reward for being on time, but a party for anyone who just decides to show up?